Well, got another little story for you. I was stationed Beaufort, South Carolina. This was when I came back from Hawaii, 1983. I was stationed with 251, again working maintenance control, staff sergeant. Had a warrant office receiver, commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Doyle, and I worked maintenance control, midnight shift, because I don't like assholes. Assholes work day shift. I like getting into the meat, getting into the grind. Another Major Daniels, not the one in a previous, but this Major Daniels I had a lot of respect for. Like I said, worked the midnight shift, midnight to 8 o'clock, and 5 o'clock we had what was known as Menapause. There was a flagpole behind the squadron, grassy area, and I developed this thing called Menapause. It was a break. Anybody not working on a down aircraft, get a cup of coffee, go out there and sit 15-20 minutes having a cup of coffee, cigarette, talk about anything except the Marine Corps. Did not talk about the Marine Corps. Did not talk about PFTs or IGs or inspections or uniforms or anything dealing with the Marine Corps. It was all civilian talk. Because I always went by the name of Gene. If you wanted to have me help you, my name was Gene. I didn't care what rank you were, all the way up. All the way up. Officers would call me Gene if they wanted me to produce. If you threw that rank at me, I wouldn't give you the time of day. Anyhow, we were out there one morning having coffee. Phone rang. And the kid that had to stay in maintenance control for Menapause yelled at me and told me that there was supply. Well, I was waiting for a supply call, so I went inside. We've been doing Menapause now for about a month. No hassles, no nothing. But that one particular day when I answered that phone call, got that situation done. Took about 5 minutes. I went back outside. Nobody was there. What's going on? So I went back in and went to work. Kid from Metal Shop came in, told me that an officer came up, asked what was going on. We told him it was Gene's Menapause. He told everybody to go back to work. So he dispersed everybody. Piss me off. So next morning, did the same thing. Menapause. Well, a car came up about 10 minutes before Menapause because I kept watching. Sure enough, this car came up about 10 minutes to 5 and sat in the parking lot. Well, I called for Menapause on the loudspeaker. Menapause, Menapause, coffee cup, Menapause, meet you at the flagpole. Went outside. Well, about 5 minutes into it, kid came back out, told me there was a phone call for me. Well, it was already discussed at midnight that the guy from Metal Shop would walk into maintenance control, because I wanted to be there when this lieutenant arrived. Well, sure enough, as soon as the kid went inside, I seen a car door open as a light came on, and this lieutenant, this LT, came up, pissed off. I ordered you guys yesterday not to be out here. You're supposed to be at work. Get your butts back to work. Well, I sat there because I told everybody at midnight, regardless of what that LT says, follow my lead. So I sat there. He came up, cussing that nobody was going back to work. So I looked at him, stood up. Problem, ALT. He looked at me and he says, "You had a phone call in maintenance control." Nah. Sure didn't. ALT. If I were you, I'd leave Menapause. You're not welcomed here. Okay, guys. Let's talk about drugs and rock and roll. Well, the LT went upstairs. About 6:30, Major Daniels comes in. "Gene, heard you had a little adventure this morning." "Sure did." "Did you straighten out that LT?" "Well, I told him, let you boys be boys. And I don't see nothing wrong with having menopause." And I looked at him and I said, "You know, you can join us if you want. You know, we just talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Can't talk military, though." And he kind of chuckled. Sure enough, the next morning, 5 minutes to 5, he comes into maintenance control. And he sits on the desk. And he's in a flight suit. He's got a 5:30 briefing upstairs. And he popped up and he goes, "You don't mind if an officer joins you this morning, do you?" "Nah, it'll be a change of pace." So I got on the speaker right at 5 o'clock like I always do. "Menopause, menopause, menopause. Get your cup of coffee, meet me at the flagpole. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll." We got our coffee and went out there. The kids were shocked to see the maintenance officer with us, talking about everything but Marine Corps. He gave us a couple good stories about what's happened in his life, and sure enough, 15 minutes later, kid that I got as my sidekick sticks his head out the door. 5:15. "Okay, guys, back to work. Turnaround gripes." Everybody went back to work. Well, Major Daniels joined me in maintenance control. And he goes, "So that's menopause." "Yes, sir, it is." He goes, "I'm going to talk to the skipper. Because it's a morale builder." "Ah, thanks, Major." "Hey, you're not an asshole, are you?" We both kind of chuckled about that. Well, a few months later, we had this thing called LES, Leave and Earning Statement. You get it every month. Well, it was getting close to my re-enlistment time. I'd already re-enlisted, except my LES didn't reflect it. 90 days, end of business. I mentioned it to my boss, Cricket. "Hey, my LES says I got 90 days left and I'm out of here." Cricket says, "Well, I'll make a phone call." Okay. Next morning, "You make the phone call?" "Yep. You and the diary clerk said that he did it." And I said, "Okay." Following month, 60 days. Well, I didn't go to Cricket. I went to Warrant Officer Seaver. Told Gunner Seaver, 60 days and I'm out of here. Well, Gunner Seaver told me the next morning that he went upstairs to S1, got it verified. Okay. Next month, 30 days. And everything was kaput. Yeah. I went into Major Daniels' office this time. Showed him 30 days and I'm out of here. You know? No, Major Daniels told me the next day. Yeah, I checked into it too. Okay. We'll see what happens next month. Well, next month rolled around. I went into work at midnight. 0 discharged. Everything is stopped. Paid in full. You're no longer getting paid by the Marine Corps. I looked at that. Okay. Okay. Well, I folded it and put it in my shirt pocket. Business as usual. Had menopause at 5 o'clock. Major Daniels joined us. Didn't say nothing to Major Daniels about my LES. Another word. This time I'm going to do it. Well, 8 o'clock came. And it was time for me to go home. I went upstairs. Yeah, we had a gunny working. I can't think of his name, but he was a good friend of mine. I told him, I'm going upstairs. Look at my LES. And I showed him my LES. He goes, you're kidding. I said, nope. I'm going up S1 and stir the pot. So I went upstairs to S1. S1 had a rule. You don't go beyond the counter. Well, I broke that rule. I walked into S1, went behind the counter. There was a female sergeant that was sitting at a desk. The unit diary clerk was sitting over here, facing that way. She was facing this way, you know. And I walked up to the unit diary clerk. About that time the phone rang. And it was the gunny from maintenance control calling to make sure that I wasn't really carrying out my threat of stirring the pot. Well, the WM sergeant looked at me and told me I'm not allowed back here. Well, the gunny in maintenance control overheard me say, Sergeant, you keep that fucking mouth of yours shut or I'm going to take a needle and thread and sew that pussy up. Unit diary clerk, I want to see my unit diary that reestablishes me in the Marine Corps. Now. Well, the gunny hung up the phone. We had an early flight that morning. Skipper flew. He had to get an hour of nighttime. And he came into maintenance control and was talking to Gunner Seaver when Gunny hung up the phone. And the gunny walked up to the gunner and said, Gunner, I suggest you go upstairs. Gene just told that female in S1 he's going to take a needle and thread and sew her pussy shut. Gunner Seaver looked at the gunny and went, what? What is going on? And the gunny popped up and says, well, Gene showed me where he had been discharged on his LES. Everything is stopped. His pay and everything. Gunner Seaver popped up and goes, well, I better get upstairs. Colonel Doyle told Gunner Seaver, no, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of Gene. And the gunner, I was told this, the gunner just looked at the skipper and went, I got an idea, he's pissed. Yeah, I would be too if I was in his shoes, but I'll take care of it. Well, in the meantime, the unit diary clerk couldn't show me a unit diary that established my re-enlistment. Apparently they failed to do it, which resulted in my 90, 60, 30, you're out of here. Well, I already looked up the number for DFS. So I walked down to the ready room. Ready room is where the ODO is, and during flight ops he's got to be there, and he directs the, direct communication, maintenance control, and they get the flights going and coming, and hub of the squadron. Well, I walked into the ready room, took a hold of the phone, and called DFS. The LT, that was the ODO, was also the LT that broke up my menopause. So he don't like me at all, and he just sat there. Well, I got somebody on the phone, and I told him, I said, I want to talk to somebody that pushes my button. 129427909. So I waited a couple minutes. I did not notice Colonel Doyle coming in, standing behind me. So anyhow, this Master Sergeant gets on the phone and tells me that he's responsible for me, and he notices that I've been discharged and everything has been stopped. And I said, well, I am not discharged, and the next person you talk to is the asshole responsible. Here, Lieutenant. Phone call. The lieutenant was also the OIC of S1. Well, after the lieutenant took the phone and started talking to this Master Sergeant, I turned around face to face with Colonel Doyle. I looked at him. He looked at me. I walked around him and went outside the hallway. Now this is up on the second floor. There's windows looking down on the hangar deck. Doors are open. And I'm just standing there by a window looking out. Hangar deck and the flight line. Colonel Doyle comes up beside me. And he popped up and he goes, well, Gene, what do you think? I didn't say nothing, I just kept looking. Well, Gene, think we're going to make the flight schedule today? Again, I just looked out the window. Gene, you got to understand that I'm responsible for everything in this squadron. That is when I turned, looked at him, and I went, and you're doing one hell of a fucking job. Turned around and walked out. Went out to my car and went home. I got home, went to bed, slept to about 7 o'clock that night, and got thinking, oh Jesus, I can see the court-martial now. Well, I called maintenance control, the night shift, and told Woody that I'm not coming in. No way. There's no way I can do my job with this hanging. There's no way. And then I'd come in the morning and report to the CO, because I got an idea I'm going to be court-martialed because of my actions today. So I went back to bed about 1 o'clock. Got up at 5. Got in the funny dunnies, all spruced up. I went into work. Did not go to maintenance control. Went right upstairs. Sergeant Major was sitting at his desk. As I walked past his door, he popped up. Jane! I took 2 steps back. Sergeant Major goes, Skipper's looking for you. And I looked at him and I says, yeah, you're probably looking for me too. The sergeant major goes, I'm not looking for you. But I admire you. I stood there and looked at the sergeant major and went, admire. Okay, now my mind is going berserk. First court-martial, and then I'm being admired. What? About that time, Colonel Doyle steps out in the hallway from the ready room, sees me standing in front of the sergeant major's door. And he popped up and he goes, Gene, you drink your coffee black, right? Yes, Skipper? I'll meet you in my office. Just go to my office. I'll be right there. Aye, aye, sir. I looked at the sergeant major. And the sergeant major had a smile on his face that was funny. I just shook my head, went to the CO's office, stood at attention in front of his desk, and he came in carrying 2 cups. Gets behind his desk and offers me a cup. I just stood at attention, and he looked at me and he goes, Gene, at ease, have a cup of coffee. I reached over and I took the cup, took a swig. He popped up and he goes, light up. I know you have a cigarette with your menopause, so go ahead and light up. Yes, sir. I sat down, put my coffee on his desk, got out a cigarette and lit it up. Colonel Doyle looked at me and he goes, yesterday, what you said to me in the hallway hurt, because I should have been told about your 90 days. I was not. I should have been involved with you at the 60 days, but I was not told. Right now, I know you're not being paid. And I understand by talking to dispersing that it might be a couple months. How are you sitting financially? Do you need any money? And I looked at him and I says, no, sir, I'm good. I got a bank account. I got enough money to last me probably about 4 months. Colonel Doyle looked at me and he goes, excellent, excellent. Gene, if you drain your account, don't bother with the sergeant major. Come right in my office. And I'll give you whatever amount that you want. And I won't charge you interest. So we laughed about that. Well, Colonel Doyle got on a phone call. The LT that disrupted Menapause and the OIC of S1 was called into his office. And Colonel Doyle looked at him and gave him a direct order that no one is going to secure from S1 until Staff Sergeant Taylor secures them. Staff Sergeant Taylor will be satisfied in everything dealing with his personal life that you people have done, and they better prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's done his job. So the lieutenant, yes sir, looked at me, didn't say nothing, just walked out of the skipper's office. Skipper looked at me and he says, you couldn't work last night, and I understood why. But I would very much like you to come in tonight. We need you. And you know that as well as I do. We got this deployment coming up. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I'm going down now and talk to Gunner Seaver. Okay. Can I go with you? Sure. Yes, sir. So, Colonel Doyle and I went downstairs and seen Chuck Seaver. Went into his office. And we talked. And Chuck looked at me and he goes, you owe me a shift. And I looked at him and I said, why, you came in last night? And he goes, yeah. Yep, I sure did. And I looked at him and I said, did you hold Menapause at 5? Gunner Seaver started laughing. And he goes, the kid from Metal Shop came in to make the announcement. I just went along with the program and went outside and had a cup of coffee with the boys. And I was told the ruse. So we had a big laugh about that. Well, I came in that night. I get a phone call at 3 o'clock from the LT in S1. I didn't bother to answer it. I'm busy. I'm working. Well, we had menopause. The LT came down from S1 and he was about ready to open up his mouth. And I held up my finger at him. He looked at me and I said, this better be talking about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You mention anything about my EAS, I will not go upstairs to S1 until 8 o'clock, just before I go home. Well, the LT didn't say a word to me. Metal Shop guy that was filling in for the supply guy, because the supply guy was outside with us because he wanted to see the adventure. He stuck his head out the door. 5:15, menopause over. Okay, guys, menopause is over. Come on, LT, let's go upstairs. So we went upstairs at 5:15. I saw the unit diary entry. The female sergeant that I told, needle and thread and sword, pushing shut. I looked at her and I stated, I do not apologize for what I say, and I will not apologize for what I say. But the way you treated me was wrong. I had a legit gripe. You should have taken action. You failed in your job. Enough said. I went back downstairs, went back to work. Well, a few months later, the gunny promotion list came out. Naturally, I got passed over again. So I got some red rags, stapled them to the doorpost and over the top. Got a gunny shover, clipped out the bottom ring, made little fish hooks, and I wore them. Well, Gunny Cricket and Gunner Seaver came in the next morning. Colonel Doyle had another early flight. He'd already gone through at 4 o'clock. And when he came down to maintenance control, he looked at the red rags and he noticed my emblems. And he looked at me and he goes, "I take it you were passed over again." "Yes, sir." "Sure was. Gunny list came out and my name ain't on it." "Gene, when I get back today, I'm going to make a few phone calls, find out what's going on." "Well, I'll tell you right now, it's 2 fitness reports. One, my drill instructor thing, and that other one about that incident with that child being killed by the mother. What happened back a few years earlier was I helped this one corporal get his wife down in Buford and got him established. Nobody liked Corporal Maple, but I did. He was a good worker. And I went out of my way. Sergeant Major got some falsified orders to bring his wife down from Detroit and his little boy. They were there for about 2 months, and the woman took off with the little boy and apparently killed the little boy in Dallas, Texas. The grandparents wanted to burn the person responsible for putting them together, and I ended up with a bad fitness report because of it. So there was 2 bad fitness reports on me. And I explained that to Colonel Doyle. And Colonel Doyle said that he's going to make a few phone calls and see if they can get that corrected. Okay, thank you. Well, while he was flying, Gunny Cricket and Gunner Seaver, Chuck Seaver, came in, day shift. Gunner took one look at the red rags, took one look at my chevrons, and "You can't go doing this stuff. You can't. You take down those red rags. Can't do it. It's 3 days Passover festival. They got to be up there for 3 days, Gunner." He popped up and he goes, "Well, before the skipper sees you," which he did not know the skipper's already seen the chevrons and laughed about them. Gunner Seaver popped up and went, "I don't do this very often to you, Gene, but I order you to take off those chevrons." Well, as I was reaching up to unclip them, Colonel Doyle walked into maintenance control back from the flight. And Colonel Doyle looked at me, and I'm standing over there going, "This goddamn military and their bureaucratic bullshit." And Gunner Seaver is standing there in front of Colonel Doyle. Colonel Doyle looked at Gunner Seaver and goes, "What's wrong with Gene?" And Gunner Seaver goes, he's, and Colonel Doyle looked at him and goes, "He's celebrating his Passover." Gunner Seaver looked at Colonel Doyle, looked at me, looked at Colonel Doyle and went, "Huh?" And Gene told me the meaning of the red rags and his chevrons, and I think it's kind of funny. And I'm going to make a few phone calls today. Colonel Doyle just turned around, went into his office and sat down, put his head down on his desk, because I walked over. Colonel Doyle's still standing there making out some paperwork. I walked over and stood in the doorway, and I went, "Gunner, do I have to take off the chevrons?" And the gunner's just shaking his head. I wore those chevrons for 3 days. And Colonel Doyle got back with me 2 or 3 days later, and
call from 850-364-4851.
told me that things were going to be going into the positive. A couple years later, I did get promoted. So anyway, just wanted to brief you on all that. So have a good day. Bye-bye.